Elon Musk is he reminds me of a strategist that I used to engage in big transformation projects back when I was in the private sector. He's throwing out big ideas. And if anybody thinks that all of these big ideas are going to be implemented to conclusion, they don't understand the process of disruption. He is identifying some things that I do think need to be looked at, and many of those things would require congressional. Everybody's acting like Congress doesn't exist anymore.
Do you and the other senators know what
thinking about will require congressional approval to actually structurally change them? But I'm glad people are asking questions, because I'm sick of people for the last 10 years I've been here looking the other way.
Actually, I think he's been a very positive influence and lent his notoriety to raise the visibility of the excessive spending and waste and fraud in the way the federal government does its business. Obviously, he doesn't have the authority to legislate, and that's going to be up to Congress. But I think his highlighting some of these stories has been and will continue to be very helpful.
So wait, the speaker earlier was saying it was so complicated, and, so they do have the power to approve these things. Which is it with these Republicans? I can't tell. Are they powerful? Are they strong? Can they hold the line? Can they protect the Constitution, or maybe not? Can't tell.
A key role for Musk and Trump's administration. You see this 39% support, 53%, the clear majority opposed. They don't want this. The American people don't want this. No, no, no. Just 36% of independents support the idea of Elon Musk having a key role in the Trump administration. So the bottom line, when it comes to all of this and Elon Musk being everywhere, it seems, in the federal government, trying to trim down the federal deficit, the American folks, simply put, do not want Elon Musk having a key role in the Trump administration.
Even though he has a very key role at this point. How has his own popularity sort of been impacted by this? Because if you go on Twitter or X, which he now owns, you would think he is the king of kings.
He may be the king of X or Twitter, but he ain't the king of the United States of America. And if he were the king, he'd be a very unpopular king. Elon Musk's net favorable rating, back in 2016, when he was known as the SpaceX guy, right? His net favorable rating was plus 29 points. By last year, pre-fall, he had dropped all the way down to -3 as he began to take on more of a political role. Remember, as he took on X, as he bought X, formerly known as Twitter. Now look in 2025. Whoa, the bottom has fallen out, minus 11 points. And it should be noted that Donald Trump's own net favorable rating is closer to about a net 0. So Elon Musk at this particular point is far more unpopular than Donald Trump is, who is at the apex of his popularity. In fact, what we see with Elon Musk is he is at the trough of his popularity.
Look, I think a lot of people saw them as almost a package deal. You saw him more than J.D. Vance. We don't even say J.D. Vance's name. He is the vice president. It is Musk, Musk, Musk all day, every day because of the moves he's making. So does it seem like he's sort of becoming the face of this administration?
Yeah, I think in some ways he is. He is becoming the face of this administration. Look at Google searches for Elon Musk. They're at their all-time high, since Google started tracking this back in 2004. Get this, it's up 700% from this time last year. It's like a rocket ship taking up. And you mentioned J.D. Vance. Get this, searches for Elon Musk are 7 times as high as the searches for J.D. Vance. So the idea that Elon Musk can go do this and kind of quietly go into the corner, he's becoming a face of this administration, an unpopular face at that.
And he certainly has not been quiet about any of it because he owns X and he can put everything out there.
George Soros had been given access to the treasury payments, and he was going to be running a bureaucracy. We'll call it Jew Doge to make it George Soros applicable. And he was going to decide how many thousands of people we fire. He had a bunch of 19-year-olds that he really liked. Maybe they interned for him. Maybe they're just a Palantir kid. And he was going to bring them in, and he was going to change the way we run our government. He was going to move fast and break things like they do out in the Bay Area. But instead, your Social Security payments would be on the table. Your job would be on the table. Your Medicaid would be on the table. And you say Democrats are the only ones melting down. Is Senator Wicker a Democrat and I missed it? Or Jerry Moran, or even Marco Rubio, when he used to have a moral compass, 2017. Foreign aid isn't charity. It's critical to our national security. If you're so concerned about making sure that we stay in front of China, which would love to eat our lunch any way that they can, this kind of aid matters.
That's what Rubio just said.
Yeah. No, the program that he's talking about in 2017 is different than what is going on today. It absolutely is.
And
anyway,
it's not the principle of what he's saying.
The fundamental issue here is that we have three co-equal branches of government, and the executive doesn't care about Congress anymore. Congress appropriated this money. They say it was an EO. Originally it was, but in 1998 it was enshrined by Congress as a law. You need to go through the proper hurdles. And there are plenty of Democrats who said, let me in the Doge caucus. They want to have conversations about things to cut. Maybe there are lima bean dancers in malaria in wherever that need to be eliminated. But you have, and just one more thing. They've blocked access to secure communications for hundreds of USAID employees who are currently in war zones. How can that be okay with you?
What if he's stealing money? We don't know. There's no way to know because the systems that were in place to hold things accountable have been ripped away by Donald Trump, and Elon Musk looks like is reporting to nobody.
Yeah, we've got reports of an email server being attached to the OPM system, possibly in violation of federal law. Is it your understanding that what's happening here is just bad and reckless or illegal as well?
It's illegal. If a private citizen were to access the same database without the blessing of Donald Trump, it would actually be considered a felony. And this is even worse because this is some random hacker in some basement doing something for fun. This is a billionaire with a company that can actively use that data to help enrich him and help his company. Not just that, but all the systems of oversight have been taken away. So I believe it is criminal, it is illegal, and we as members of the Oversight Committee not only deserve but must have the ability to conduct oversight on what's going on in that building behind closed doors. Donald Trump has talked about draining the swamp. He is the swamp. Elon Musk is the swamp. And now they're in a position where all of these systems and people that we had in place to protect the payment system, to ensure that there's no abuse, waste, and fraud have been taken away. So nobody knows what's going on behind those closed doors. And I don't believe any of the BS coming out of President Trump's mouth for a second. So now it's up to us as members of Congress to actually go to that building like we did today. That's not normal. You know, as members of Congress, usually Treasury Department will send people to us so we can hear from people during hearings. But the big problem is that Chairman James Comer on the Oversight Committee is the ultimate Trump lapdog. So we're not going to have any hearings of substance. So we had to go physically and pull up to that building and say, let us in. And obviously they delayed and didn't let us in at all. But we're not stopping there. We're going to continue these actions. We're going to continue to do what we need to do to protect our constituents. Chris, this wasn't a stunt. This wasn't a thing to get social media. This was real work of oversight. And I am terrified of the potential shit that Elon Musk is doing behind those closed doors and the fact that absolutely nobody has the information on what he's doing and he answers to nobody. We should all be very concerned about it, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican.
Yeah, just in the interest of scrupulous precision, I just want to be clear that we don't have any evidence for reporting he's stealing money. We just don't know what is happening back there. And also that we have
no evidence, but we don't know at all.
Yeah, and he has apparently been designated a special government employee, which is a category, but it's unclear when that happened.
Musk dismantling the government. Exclusive breaking details out front tonight about the young men Elon Musk is sending in as his lieutenants. The editor at Wired, who broke the details about who they are, what they're doing, is out front in just a moment, because it comes as the world's richest man now has unprecedented power and access to critical government operations. Among them, one of the things he's trying to do is shut down the agency in charge of U.S. humanitarian aid. So Musk has tweeted about this a whole lot, but I think this one summarizes the whole mantra here. USAID is a criminal organization. Time for it to die. They're all pretty much like that. And he's got Trump's blessing on this one.
If there's fraud, these people are lunatics. They're tremendous fraud. They turn out to be radical left lunatics.
So he's talking about the people there. It's also about the programs. I mean, USAID is a big organization. They do spend money on a whole lot of things. Fighting disease and starvation are on the list. And the most important thing actually just boils down to this. If there are legitimate concerns about U.S. aid and fraud and its spending money, then investigate it, let the American people see it, and take care of it. But to just shut it down without telling anybody what you're doing on the whim of one man who is not elected and who isn't even employed by the federal government, well, that is something that, at least in terms of the structure of the United States, is an un-American way to do it. There is a way to shine a light on U.S. aid. It would be by going before Congress.
And Elon, if you want to run AID, get nominated by Trump and go to the Senate, and good luck in getting confirmed.
Right, you get confirmed, you go in, well, then you could dismantle it. Well, Congressman Jerry Connolly is going to be with us in just a moment, but this is not Musk's only major move right now. According to the Wall Street Journal tonight, Musk is also leading Trump's charge to essentially shutter the Department of Education. And then there's this, Musk and his team gaining full access to the Treasury's massive federal payment system. Basically the checkbook for the whole federal government. So, the $6 trillion that goes in all sorts of things, to households and businesses, well, it goes through there. And up until this point, only a small number of career officials have controlled the Treasury's payment systems. That is until this weekend, when a top official left after a standoff with Musk's team, where Team Musk tried to stop some payments. Make no mistake, this is a major coup for Musk.
He's got access only to letting people go that he thinks are no good if we agree with him. And it's only if we agree with him.
With a full-on crisis in our democracy, as federal workers are literally locked out of their offices while operatives working for a private citizen essentially take over our government. Their tactics include turning off our federal websites, deleting government-funded research that you, the taxpayer, paid for to impose speech codes, bullying news organizations by demanding interview transcripts, implementing an FBI purge, locking federal workers out of their computers, and even turning them away at their offices while giving themselves, without congressional or any other authorization, full access to the personal data of tens of millions of Americans, including Social Security recipients, FBI agents and officials, military and government contractors, and every single employee of the federal government. All of that data in private hands that you did not authorize, even if you voted for Donald Trump. This as Trump installs unqualified minions at the heads of every federal agency, knowing that they wouldn't stop this even if they knew how. At least when he's not threatening multiple trade wars or vowing to launch a new age of American imperialism by colonizing the indigenous people of Greenland and the Panama Canal, all while congressional Democrats issue strongly worded letters, plus holding a press conference today, and congressional Republicans sit back and let the federal government they work for collapse all around them, while they occasionally beg Trump for tariff mercy for their states. If this were happening in any other country right now, I promise you, I'd be on the air calling it a coup.
Just like the president who is elected to something cannot impound the money of the people, we don't have a fourth branch of government called Elon Musk. Now, I don't know what Elon Musk's intentions are. I don't know what Elon Musk's motivations are. I don't know what his purposes are, but they've got nothing to do with what has been lawfully adopted by the people of the United States of America through the Congress of the United States. We're going to defend U.S. aid all the way.
Joining us now from Capitol Hill, NBC News White House correspondent Vaughn Hilliard and staff writer with The Atlantic and MSNBC political contributor Mark Leibovich. All right, so how did Elon Musk go about deciding this, and why did does the White House know what USAID does?
I think that there's a lot of questions, Katie. I think that, frankly, the President of the United States has not answered about his understanding of what this $40 billion operation that effectively works with, more than 100 different organizations, more than 60 different missions globally to work as a conduit for congressionally appropriated funds for humanitarian assistance and local development projects. And what Donald Trump in the Oval Office just a short time ago acknowledged message to the press corps was that, in fact, he is okay with the way that Elon Musk has gone about effectively crippling the backbone of U.S. humanitarian assistance organization. And not only that, but also Elon Musk's efforts within the Treasury Department to gain access through employees of payment disbursement files. But then also when you're looking at Elon Musk and in that Spaces conversation he had in After Midnight last night, Katie, it is a suggestion that they are willing to freeze billions of dollars in foreign assistance, but also potentially other payments. And what we heard from the president was no suggestion that he has any interest in putting a stop to the efforts of Elon Musk. We heard from some of those Democratic lawmakers on the literal front line of the government offices there at USAID headquarters, which was shut down today, and staffers who have not been fired or furloughed were told not to come to that office. And what you heard from some of those Democratic lawmakers was the argument that Elon Musk, the billionaire, has effectively been allowed to access not only personnel files, but also cut off congressionally approved funds through these major governmental agencies.
We're talking about someone who's unelected, unvetted, and definitely unconfirmed that is now literally sitting atop our $6 trillion, and we don't know what it is that he's doing, and we honestly don't know what role he has.
Look, you have well articulated some of the bad thoughts as you described them at the top here. The question is, does Musk's team now have the power to actually disrupt federal payments?
In my opinion, they do, but I honestly don't know. We still don't know really what Doge is in the first place. I mean, listen, think about it like this, Alex. You know, everyone hates Congress. That's just what it is, right? But as a sitting member of Congress, I mean, I had to give up my ability to practice law. I am prevented from being able to practice law to prevent potentially somebody dropping a load of cash on me and I do something that is nefarious as one of 435. And now we're talking about a guy who literally gets government contracts from the United States and has not had to divest, has not had to, I mean, it is really awful. And I know right now people are asking whether or not their IRS refund checks are going to be affected. We don't know if this is more DEI. Are you going to say if it's somebody that's a person of color, then for some reason, whatever they paid in to the federal government, they're not allowed to get it back? Like, we don't know, but there is no reason for any political appointee, if you can even call him that, to have this kind of access. There's none.
Let me move to the fact that you are also a member of the Judiciary Committee. And since Donald Trump took office, multiple top FBI officials and federal prosecutors who all worked on January 6 cases, they're out of a job. And now the DOJ wants names of those who worked on the Trump or January 6 investigations for possible firing. What do you make of this apparent cleansing?
I mean, you just called it what it is. It's a cleansing. I mean, listen, when Democrats got out there and we said that our democracy was really at risk, people were like, oh, Democrats, you're out there, you're gaslighting. It's not our democracy. Well, he did say he'd be a dictator on day one. Oh, Democrats, you know, it's just Trump. He just talks. Well, let me tell you something. He is doing more than talking. We talked about Project 2025. We talked about the consolidation of power. We talked about how he wanted to be a king. We talked about in a democratic republic, that is not what it is. We have some sort of checks and balances, and he is doing everything that he can to get rid of those checks and balances. The DOJ and the people that he's going after were simply doing their jobs. The problem is that Americans thought that it was okay to take a full-fledged criminal and make him the president of the United States, and then they want to act aghast when he does criminal things. Let me tell you, we have a thug in charge of the United States, and if we don't wake up, we may not have a United States, because right now he has only been successful in being a divider in chief.
Elon Musk and his team of people have reportedly been asking Treasury for access to the payment systems that the government uses to pay its bills, to pay out trillions of dollars a year across the federal government. Also payments to businesses and individual households. So if you're a federal worker, before your paycheck hits your bank account, it goes through the system. Same thing if you get a Social Security check or a Medicare benefit. payments to government contractors, tax refunds, grant recipients. You get the idea. This is basically the government's checkbook at the Treasury Department, how they pay for everything. It's so sensitive that only a few career officials actually have access to use this system. But according to the Post today, Elon Musk and his team have demanded access to it as well, which led to a dispute with a very high-ranking career official at Treasury who's now quit over this dispute, who's now resigned. The Post says it is unclear what exactly Elon Musk's team wanted to do, why they wanted access to this incredibly sensitive system. One former Treasury Department official tells the Post, quote, "This payment system has never been used in a way to execute a partisan agenda. You have to really put bad intentions in place for that to be the case." I do not know enough about what this payment system does or how it works to understand the implication of it potentially being misused. But I will tell you, I have been watching enough of these red flags in the last 11 days to recognize that this is a very big one. And if the people in control of this very sensitive, very highly restricted system now do have bad intentions for what they're going to do with it, what does that mean? What is the scope of what they could do?
This morning, millions of federal workers are faced with a choice: stay in their jobs with an uncertain future, or leave the government, leave their jobs with a buyout from the Trump administration. The White House made the offer in an abrupt email to employees with the subject line, "A fork in the road." And the clock is ticking. Federal workers have just over a week to decide if they stay. The administration is making clear their job still might not be there for long. It's part of Trump's push to dramatically shrink the size of government. One federal employee, though, tells CNN that people are stunned, pissed, baffled, and a bit scared. This is also only part of the latest episode of Donald Trump chaos. There's still mass confusion about what programs are really being impacted by President Trump's plan to freeze federal aid. Programs like Head Start, Meals on Wheels, agricultural programs, low-income housing assistance, all in limbo. For now, that freeze, though, is frozen. A federal judge has temporarily blocked the White House move to halt all of these grants and loans. CNN's Elena Trine following all of this. John said it right, an avalanche of developments today. What is the very latest that you're learning, Elena?
That's right. I do want to start with what you first mentioned, Kate, which was this email that was sent to all 2 million federal workers last night, offering them a buyout, as you mentioned, I think you put it perfectly, with an uncertain future. They can quit their jobs and be paid through September 30th, or stick around and figure out whether or not they will be forced to resign. Now, this is just the latest stunning move we've seen by the Trump White House, really to reshape the federal workforce in Donald Trump's image. Now, one thing to be clear on, as I said, this was sent to all 2 million federal workers, but there are some exemptions, I'm told, by a spokesperson from the Office of Personnel Management, which sent this out. These are the exceptions that they noted that would not be included in this buyout. It includes postal workers, military workers, immigration officials, certain national security roles, and any other roles that these different agencies deem as being necessary. Now, another thing I'm told is that the Trump administration is trying to frame this buyout as being an off-ramp for people who do not want to return to work full-time. We know that last week we saw Donald Trump issue a directive that said all people who have flexible schedules, remote schedules, have to come back to work full-time. They're saying this could be a good option for that. But again, this is being offered widespread throughout the government. I do want to read for you just some of what was in that email that was sent to all of these employees last night. It said, quote, "At this time, we cannot give you full assurance regarding the certainty of your position or agency, but should your position be eliminated, you will be treated with dignity and will be afforded the protections in place for such positions." Now, as you mentioned, Kate, as well, workers have until February 6th, which is just a week from tomorrow, to decide whether or not they want to opt for this type of buyout. Now, one other thing as well that's just, can't be lost in this is Elon Musk's involvement. We are told that Musk had long been wanting to do this, and he was very involved in the crafting of this effort. And the subject line that came on that email that was sent to all of these employees last night was "a fork in the road," very reminiscent of an email we know he sent to Twitter employees in 2022 before we saw a lot of the firings that happened there. So, again, a massive change to the federal workforce. We'll have to see how many people end up actually taking this and what could happen thereafter.
Can I ask you about the Musk mirroring the email to Twitter employees to all federal workers?
Yeah, a fork in the road.
A fork in the road.
That was, I mean, can you imagine if you're a federal worker and that suddenly shows up in your inbox? Clearly, it's a symptom of his desire to get these government reforms going very quickly, and I guess you could say it's a pretty innovative thing to bring in the corporate solution on manpower and reducing manpower here. But yesterday was an interesting data point on this because it showed people just how important government is in their lives in many ways, in ways we don't think about. If suddenly, thousands of government employees start taking these buyouts and there's no replacements, that could cause chaos. I mean, it's possible Trump could be more successful than he actually hopes to be in reducing the size of government. He may end up paying a political price. So that's something interesting to watch, I think.
He may end up paying an actual price if a lot of people end up taking the buyout. They say that they can save $100 billion, but there might be a lot of people who end up taking that. Would you take it?
It's a pretty generous offer. 8 months. It's more generous. Twitter was only 3 months. It's a pretty generous offer, and it's competitive with private sector. Actually, it's not like these guys are getting railroaded here.
Well, we'll see if they report out some of that data. We're all very curious.